view that we should not call them Ahmadis, and I try to refer to them as Qadiani or Qadiani. However, sometimes there is a slip of tongue for me, so I tend to say Ahmadiyya. Similarly, there are people who many people who simply don't understand whenever I use the word Qadiani. So for them as well, if I use word Ahmadiyya and Qadiani, they can be used interchangeably, but I understand where you're coming from as well, and I respect that as well. And who even talked was whoever even talk about that man, okay, that's your opinion, respect that. Similarly, Mirza Ghulam, okay, over here Mirza Ghulam, the purpose of this live is inshallah ta'ala to expose the false beliefs of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani and Mirza Ghulam Qadiani and Jamat Qadiani. They believe that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is in fact the Khatamun Nabiyeen. The Qadiani clerics are here quite active on social media, so inshallah ta'ala it's our duty to counter the propaganda over there. There are two ways for us right now. Either we just listen to the propaganda which they are doing and let them roam around to do whatever they want to do, or counter their propaganda they are trying to propagate here on the social media. And inshallah ta'ala we are here trying to counter the false narratives being propagated by Mirza Ghulam Qadiani and his Jamaat. And assalamu alaikum to everyone, and I like to sincerely apologize everyone who had to leave my earlier stream. And exactly Roxy, I agree with you. Feel free to come up if you want to share your thoughts about MGA and Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. The thing is that there are many Ahmadi streams going on, and I see, you can't imagine, dozens and dozens of ordinary Muslim brothers who are simply not aware of the aqaid of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. They go to these lives of these Ahmadiyya Qadianiya missionaries, and they try to ask them one, two confusing questions, take hadith out of context, misinterpret words, so to prove that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is a true person, and are trying to deceive our ordinary Muslims. So inshallah ta'ala, the purpose of this stream is to expose these false views of Jamaat Ahmadiyya or Qadianiya, and to let the world know that they have absolutely nothing to do with Islam. Yes, they have TikTok lives open 24/7 on social media. There are paid missionaries of Jamaat Qadian over here. These are missionaries who are paid by Jamaat, because it's a very rich Jamaat. The Jamaat has got a lot of money and financial resources behind its back, and it uses those resources from the chanda which it receives from its people. So if anyone doesn't know, there's a mandatory 6.25% chanda aam, khuddam and atfal for everyone who is part of Jamaat Qadian. Similarly, number two is that they're ranging from 10 to 33%. There's a chanda wasihat you have to pay every month as well, and if you add 10 and 6%, that's 16.25% of chanda of your monthly income, not your saving, your income, which you have to pay to Jamaat Qadian to feed the bellies of this Khalifa Majboor, who is having good time with this lady over here. And that is why the message of Jamaat Ahmadiyya, love for all, hatred for none. Mirza Masood having good time with this lady in this picture. However, whenever the members of Jamaat, ordinary members of Jamaat Ahmadiyya, they go to him, he always keeps a distance with them and asks them to wear mask as well. How? Yes, 6.25 membership, monthly membership to the cult. That's chanda aam, chanda khuddam and atfal. Then there's 10% of it varies if anyone wants to pay more than 10, but the minimum limit for chanda wasiyat is 10%. So if you need to add 10% to 10% plus 6.25%, that's 16.25% chanda which you have to pay monthly. Similarly, these Ahmadiyya, they have to pay 2.5% zakat on their annual income or annual savings as well, once they become sahib nasab as well. That's the second sort of money which they have to pay to their Jamaat. Then the third is they have to pay approximately 1% of their yearly income to Jamaat, again on top of that as well, which goes towards the Jalsa Salana or the so-called Ahmadiyya Hajj. because these Ahmadiyya, they have replaced the Hajj with Jalsa Salana, and they have their annual gathering, 3-day annual gathering, where the Khalifa Majboor, who does his who has his speech, and there's an event which takes place. The Jamaat gives them food, for everyone goes to their temples, and they have food over there as well. Exactly unknown. There's fatwa by all school of thoughts that Jamaat Ahmadiyya, they have got that they have absolutely nothing to do with Islam. Similarly, another type of chanda which they have to pay is the Jalsa Salana chanda, 1%, which that's one they have to pay. Then on top of that, they have gotten many memberships of Jamaat newspapers. So the Jamaat has its annual and weekly newspaper, with Jamaat sends PDF to, or physical copies as well. They have their magazines, for which they also take money as well. Similarly, the Jamaat additionally also has at least 40 different types of chanda jat, which everyone has to pay no matter what. And even if you are a student, someone who is unemployed, someone who does not have any financial resources, someone who's disabled, they simply don't differentiate between people, and you have to pay. You certainly have to pay these chanda jat every single month, or else they threaten you with ikhraj as well. And ikhraj is something which is very scary in Jamaat Qadian. But just going, and I'll quickly narrate 3 stories which are quite interesting, particularly about the chanda of Jamat Qadian. The first story is about the guy, and these are true stories I've heard, I think around about a month ago, from people who are still part of Jamat Qadian. The first one of them was a person who is from Germany, and he says, I had some issue with a member of Jamaat Qadian, an official of Jamaat Qadian in Germany, and I raised a complaint to the Jamaat officials so that so they can deal with my complaints. They have an parallel appellate jurisdiction as well over the people, so they adjudicate matters as well. And a 3-member committee was formed by the Jamaat Qadian to listen to the complaints of that person against one Murabbi of Jamaat. And when that 3-member committee came to meet that person, they said that you have not paid chanda for last 2 months. Therefore, unless you pay chanda, we are simply not going to listen to you. Therefore, first pay chanda, and then we'll readdress your complaints, and then we listen to your complaints. And he said, I got so frustrated by these answers of Mirza got so frustrated by these rules of the Jamaat, that I ponder over that why I am still member of this Jamaat, because he himself said that I am a lifelong member of Jamaat Qadian, and as a lifelong member of Jamaat Qadian, I had paid chanda every single time, but just for last 2 months, because of financial situation, I was not able to pay chanda. Yet these murabbis, these officials, they failed to pay heed to any complaint which he raised, because he failed to pay chanda just for 2 months. Another story of another Ahmadiyya who says that he was from Germany as well, and he narrates a story about being in Germany during COVID times. He was originally from Pakistan, the only one from his family in Germany, recently moved to Germany before COVID. He was quite active in Jamaat Qadian as well, and the official functions and events which they happen. And he says, I used to pay chanda throughout my life. He was a born Ahmadiyya as well, or Qadiania, and he says during COVID he got really sick, got jobless, to the extent that he could not even get out of bed for nearly a month. And he said during this entire month, not even a single person of the Jamaat, no Murabbi, even bothered calling me. And he said I was in such a bad state that no one can imagine. And he says 2 months later, I started receiving phone calls upon phone calls from the Murabbi of Jamaat saying that you have not paid chanda, so can you please make your chanda payment swiftly. And he said that he got so frustrated by listening to what the Murabbi said. He said, I'm not going to pay chanda anymore. However, they had a patch up later on as well, and after that this issue was resolved. And this is the sad reality which Jamaat Qadian has found themselves in, that there are these people who are just exhausted by the members of Jamaat Qadian. If they don't pay chanda long enough, then they are threatened with akhraj. Just going back to the topic we were talking about earlier, where Mirza Ghulam Qadiani made blasphemous remarks about true prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says about Hazrat Isa alayhi salam in Ruhani Khazain, volume 9, page 392. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says, the objection is very great that Hazrat Masih alayhi salam could not give any practical example of true and perfect relationship with a spouse, nauzubillah, astaghfirullah, simply because he was absolutely deprived of highest manly attributes. Nauzubillah, astaghfirullah. What is Mirza Ghulam Qadiani trying to allude over here, saying that Hazrat Isa alayhi salam was deprived of highest manly attributes? Can any Ahmadi explain this one to me? Or would these Ahmadiyya, these Qadiana be alright if I use these same words for your Masih Maud? If I use these exact same words for Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, how would these Ahmadiyya feel? They'll say that you are committing blasphemy. If we use these exact same words for Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, they say that that we are committing all these sort of blasphemous remarks in about remarks in about remarks in about don't consider that to be insults. They might be quoting references from Tazkira. They might be quoting references from Rohani Khazain. So if any Ahmadiyya they abuse, right, you should ask the page number from these Ahmadiyya. Which page of Rohani Khazain have you taken these abuses from? Just getting back to what we were talking about. Walaikum assalam, Rosie. Hope you are doing well. Assalamu alaikum, by the way, to everyone joining. And again, why we say that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani had nothing to do with Islam? Because he was a blasphemous person who committed blasphemies day in, day out, true prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he says in Al-Hakam newspaper, official newspaper of Jamat Qadian, 24th June 1903, page 4, the more human relationship you have, the higher are your worries. The situation of Isa alayhi salam is such that he proudly says that he is happy because he has no human relationships. It is not something virtuous, rather Isa alayhi salam has a defect. Islam has a defect because he could not show all the different aspects of the ethics which are not complete. Nauzubillah, astaghfirullah, nauzubillah, astaghfirullah. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani again attributing lies towards true prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he just did not stop over there, and he says, what a shame, the Sermon of the Mountain, which is the gist of gospel, Jesus plagiarized from Talmud when he pretended as though these were his teachings. Nauzubillah, astaghfirullah. Ruhani Khazain, volume 11, page 290. I read this verbatim from the writings of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani saying that the Injil, the gospel of Isa alayhi salam, it was not in fact revealed upon Isa alayhi salam by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as mentioned in the Quran, but Isa alayhi salam plagiarized it from Talmud. Nauzubillah, astaghfirullah. And these are the blasphemous remarks why we as Muslims say that these Ahmadiyya have got absolutely nothing to do with Islam. Similarly, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, this is a very pivotal topic which we are talking about, that yes, certainly Rico, they have absolutely nothing to do with Islam. And in that regard, we have seen that these Ahmadiyya, they Waldul Haram, the Ahmadiyya Akhlaq, if you could also mention the page number of Rohani Khazain you are mentioning all these abuses from. We can open and read that page as well. But just going back to Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, and it's alright for Ahmadiyyas to abuse because their prophet used to abuse as well. Listen to it yourself. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says in Ruhani Khazain, volume 20, page 346, he says, Jesus himself did not act upon moral teachings he propagated. His extent of using foul language was such that he ended up calling Jewish elders as bastards. Nauzubillah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, nakle kufr na bashid. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says, Jesus' extent of using a foul language was such that he ended up calling Jewish elders as bastards. Astaghfir. I'm reading verbatim what he has said. And in every one of his sermon, he swore at Jewish scholars, called them with bad titles. It is this duty of a mentor that he himself first shows good manners. Nauzubillah, astaghfirullah. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani committing sheer blasphemy. And over here saying that I'll tell you why Mirza Ghulam Qadiani used to attribute all these sort of lies towards true prophets of Allah as well. The main reason for that is that whenever someone used to come to Mirza Ghulam Qadiani and tell him that why do you use all these abusive remarks in your writings, for example saying the word lanat to your opponents, then using Zuriyatul Baghaya and Waldul Haram and Randi Bazi, all these sort of words which Mirza Ghulam Qadiani used to use for his opponents. When someone went to Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, asked him, why do you use these words? Mirza Ghulam Qadiani said that okay for me to abuse because Isa alayhi salam, nauzubillah, God forbid, used to abuse as well. Astaghfirullah. And what does he say? Jesus himself did not act upon moral teachings he propagated. His extent of using foul language was such that he ended up calling Jewish elders as bastards. Nauzubillah, astaghfirullah. And in every one of his sermon, he swore at Jewish scholars. Now I hope the story makes sense for everyone here as well, that why Mirza Ghulam Qadiani used to make these blasphemous remarks about, exactly, he was jealous of Islam, Jesus Christ, and that is why Mirza Ghulam Qadiani used to attribute lies towards him. Then Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says, Astaghfirullah, in Malfuzat volume 3 page 295, Malfuzat volume 3 page 295, show me a single aspect of good manners in the Messiah. He is absolutely free from this. Without proof, even a jogi can claim that he has tamed himself. Nauzubillah, astaghfirullah. Yet these Ahmadis believe that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is in fact a true prophet, while he was committing sheer blasphemy, making abusive remarks towards Hazrat Isa alayhi salam. And then Mirza Ghulam Qadiani did not stop over here. He says, Malfuzat volume 3 page 295, no Furqan Sahib, no 1-to-1, because not 1-to-1, because I don't talk to Shatame Rasool, my friend, and hope that your asylum visa has passed. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says not accepting calls at this point. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says in Malfuzat 1984 edition volume 5 page 355, if you want to come up, you can come up. I don't talk to Shatame Rasool. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says, just give me one second. Yes, Mirza, just give me one second. Yes, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani Malfuzat volume 3 page 295 says, more than any other thing, Jesus himself did not live by the teaching of gospel, no evidence to prove to the contrary. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. And Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says, by the way, if Furqan wants to give his point of view, sure, I mean, you can send a request. I'll give you 2 to 3 uninterrupted minutes. You can have, this is not a debate. This is me saying, if you want to give your point of view, feel free to come up and give your point of view in this regard. And inshallah ta'ala, we'll continue talking about these lies and blasphemous remarks of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani as well. Yes, he's an Ahmadi and he's a Shatme Rasool as well. Honestly, he's someone who has committed blasphemy many times in the past as well. He has made many vulgar remarks, particularly about Hazrat Ammi Aisha Radhiyallahu anha, and that is why I think it about with him, because he had been earlier on a live as well, where he made many blasphemous remarks about Hazrat Ammi Aisha Radhiyallahu anha, and just quite unfortunate that these are the flag bearer of Jamat Ahmadiyya, these abusers and these harassers are the torchbearers of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. Yes, brother Usman, debate with the camera on. I'll turn on my camera, and if he turns on his camera, then we can debate. But these Ahmadis, they'll never turn on their cameras. Just going back to he says Malfuzat volume 3 page 327. Mashallah, brother Usman, a very good idea, very good idea. He says Malfuzat Masih Maud page 327. Jesus was born of Maryam's womb. As per the gospel, his entire life was quite painful and miserable. Astaghfirullah. He had beating from his enemies. Ultimately, Jews arrested him and crucified him. If this is the model of God, then who can believe in him? Malfuzat volume 3 page 327. Nauzubillah, astaghfirullah, nakle kufr na bashid. Saying that gospel, his entire life was painful and miserable. Nauzubillah. Allahu Akbar, astaghfirullah. The life of our blessed prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these prophets are the role model for their nations, and that's why the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala come upon their particular nations before Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because they are the ultimate example of how a human should live their life. However, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says that the entire life of Jesus, and I'm verbatim quote saying the two words he says, quite painful and miserable. Astaghfirullah. And astaghfirullah, nakle kufr namash. Similarly, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says in Malfuzat volume 1 page 469, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says, likewise, look at the life of Christ. He kept on praying all night long and requested his friends to do it. Finally, it came to a point when he said, "Oh God, why have you forsaken me? Have you forsaken me?" Now, by looking at such a pitiful state, who can say that he was divinely appointed? The portrayal the priests have put up together at the last moment of Christ is absolutely disappointing. Nauzubillah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. The life of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was disappointing. That is why he was attributing all these lies towards true prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But and I've told all these lies of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, which he attributed towards true prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and often they say that these were ilzami jawabs. So what is the fatwa of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani on people who use harsh language for prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He says, the fatwa of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, Majmua Ishtiharat volume 3 page 544. Some arrogant Muslims say harsh words against Jesus when responding to foul language of Christians. Some arrogant Muslims, that's the fatwa of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. So according to Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is arrogant. And in Urdu, this writing was in Urdu, and the word he used in Urdu is jahil. The person who uses harsh language towards Isa alayhi salam is a jahil. He's an ignorant person, subhanallah. So if we apply the fatwa of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani on Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, that makes him a jahil and an arrogant person. Similarly, another fatwa of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, where he says that in Ruhani Khazain volume 23 page 389, he says, you will be an uncivilized person and will go against the Quran if in a debate you are using inappropriate words against elders of other nation. On Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, his fatwa being you will be uncivilized. So Mirza Ghulam Qadiani attributing all these lies towards Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, that makes him uncivilized in the eyes of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. Similarly, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani went against the Quran as under the fatwa which Mirza Ghulam Qadiani gave by himself. Similarly, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, and whenever we talk to these Ahmadiyya, they say that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was giving accusative answers from Bible, and these were not in fact the teachings of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, but in fact, these writings were taken from the Bible. How many times our Muslim friends have listened to this refutation from Ahmadi saying that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani had taken these words from the Bible, and about people who take their teachings from Bible, who use Bible as a source point for themselves. What does Mirza Ghulam Qadiani say? He says in Malfuzat volume 3 page 208, the source of all blessings is Quran, neither gospel nor the Torah. Whoever abandons the Quran leans towards them, Torah and gospel. He is an apostate, and a disbeliever, but he who leans towards the Quran is a Muslim. Subhanallah. So according to the fatwa of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, this makes Mirza Ghulam Qadiani a ghair Muslim, non-Muslim, a disbeliever. So apply. I'm obviously I'm not going to give my verdict on Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. The verdict of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani goes to Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, and he says that anyone who uses gospel instead of Quran, that person is a liar, and that person is no longer a Muslim. And inshallah ta'ala, that was the topic we were going to talk about. Everyone understood that. If anyone has any particular questions about what we have talked about, feel free to write in the comments. Hi Ahmadi, hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you, brother?
Yes, I'm doing fine.
Firstly and foremost, I would like to say assalamu alaikum. Secondly, why do you have that picture as your live wallpaper?
It's my life, so I choose to put whatever picture I want to.
Yes, 100%. But is there anything wrong in that picture, first of all?
I've not said there's anything wrong with the picture.
Okay, bro. Okay. What do you believe Isa alayhi salam? Do you believe Isa alayhi salam will come back?
That's not the topic for today.
So what is the topic?
The topic were the blasphemous remarks of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani about Hazrat Isa alayhi salam.
Oh, okay. I did not read the topic. Okay. Can you tell me? But you have to say that the latter day Messiah and someone will come. So I'm just asking, who do you think will come? Because you guys are first to point and blame on who is not the Messiah. But you see the world, Palestine, Ukraine, Russia, there's a need of a Messiah. And you tell me who is the Messiah you are waiting for.
So that is I'll give you another 2 minutes for you to give your point of view in regards to the blasphemous remarks of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. You might not have been here earlier, but we were talking about some of the writings of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, where he made many blasphemous remarks towards Isa alayhi salam. If you want to give your Jamaat's point of view in regards to that, feel free, the floor is all yours.
Do you know what Ilzami Jawab is?
Floor is all yours.
Okay. Firstly, every allegation you guys make, there's always a backdrop to it. It is called Ilzami Jawab, accusative answer, where you use the opposition point of view to argue your view. It's almost a tone of sarcasm. Ibn Taymiyyah, Rahmallah, did it. Many other great scholars did it. But you guys just need a point to have something, and you guys just run with it. Because you guys are deniers. You're not believers. Your heart's not open. I guarantee you could give you the most evidence. You guys will still not accept.
If you want to add anything to it, please feel free. The floor is all yours. Give your Jamaati point of view. You have got ample time.
Okay. Also, I would like to make clear, I'm not a scholar, I'm not a student of knowledge. I'm just here to back our point. But last line I would like to say, who are you waiting for?
Have you done what you wanted to say?
No, yeah, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Just give me 1 second. So that was your defense, that it was an Ilzami Jawab, right? However, we were talking about this issue. We dealt with this issue of Ilzami.
Brother, you're off the.
But it's we discussed with the issue of ilzami jawab earlier on, but it's quite unfortunate that you weren't here earlier on. So we read one of the writings of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani where he quite categorically says, and we read the reference from Rohani Khazain, volume 23, page 389. Can you read Urdu?
No, bro.
Okay, so I'll read the translation of it, right? But if you want, you can go open the Urdu book as well. You won't find any issues with the translation I've done of the writings of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. If there is, feel free to go and challenge me up as well. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says, obviously, I can read one or two sentences out of it as well. However,
Yes,
I'll
go on,
read
go
the
on.
entire para so that it makes sense, right? Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says, it is obvious that how much respect and reverence Muslims have for Isa alayhi. The reference is Rohani Khazain, volume 23, page 389. Chashma Marfat. He says, it is obvious that how much respect and reverence Muslims have for Isa alayhi salam, Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, and consider him to be God's beloved messenger and a chosen one. But when a bigoted priest does not stop disrespecting the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and if his foul language goes beyond the limits, only then a Muslim who has been hurt by the priest's word gives a reply to that priest which he finds harsh. It is an accusatory answer, but still this method of answering does not go beyond the boundaries of respect. Rather, Muslims still keep good intentions in his heart, because in Islam, disrespecting a prophet is disbelief, and it is obligatory on all the prophets, so that Muslims face great difficulties because they have loved one on both sides. But it is better to be patient with ignorant ones. It is because it is severe disobedience to even want to insult any prophet, and it is the cause of divine wrath. So the conclusion I take out of this writing of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is that even when giving an accusative answer to an opponent, you should not use any harsh words about true prophets of Allah. But before you get a chance to say, I'll have to restart the live. So if you want to join again, please join again in next 2 minutes. Okay?
No, can I speak or are you ending the live?
No, I'll restart the live.